Welcome everybody to another episode of the Valor Tactical Podcast. In today's episode, we have Lieutenant Charles Myles here with McAllen Fire Department, also director and trainer, owner of Elite Medical Training Solutions out of McAllen. So today's topic, we're going to talk about why is it important for officers to be trained on how to provide medicine out on the road for every first responder out there. So like I keep saying here on my podcast is that I want to bring in guys that have been doing this for a long time, have a lot of experience, subject matter experts like Lieutenant Charles Myles here, also individuals that have a background in providing medical training out there, and of course making sure what's the importance out there for law enforcement. You know, what is important now. You know, what is the main thing here that every first responder out there needs to know about providing medicine out on the road. So, Lieutenant, appreciate it.
Sir.
Thank you so much, man.
Pleasure to be
appreciate
here.
It. You know, great to see you all the time. So I know that you and me go a long ways back, man.
Long ways.
And that when you were young.
Yeah, well, when we were young.
We were young, right? So, but I appreciate you being here in my podcast.
My
you know,
pleasure.
all the viewers out there that are watching. So just FYI, you know, got viewers from all over Texas, United States, different countries, and so forth.
Awesome.
So, this podcast has reached many people out there, and I think that they like the content, and I think that they like what we're doing down here in the South Texas border.
Yeah.
You know, with local law enforcement, but also the fire and EMS. So, and that's what's unique. That's why you're here. Unique aspect on the other side of that, we usually talk to law enforcement specifically only, but you have a variety of different disciplines.
Absolutely.
Police, fire, and EMS. So,
yes, sir.
For our viewers out there, hey, Lieutenant, just quick bio intro. And,
so Charles Myles, Elite Medical Training Solutions is basically a business I started about 2016. Obviously, I've known you for a long time.
Yes.
We've been through the mud together with the regional team where I was the TAC Med team leader there. Currently work for McAllen Fire, kind of towards the end of my career here. Moved into arson. So as you mentioned, I am tri-certified. I have fire, police, and EMS, and so been doing that for a while. About 28 years of experience.
28 years
in the business, yeah.
So Lieutenant. You know, so one of the things that I've always asked, and now that I travel, you know, I do training full time all over the state and around the country, and meet a lot of law enforcement officers. And a question that always comes up is that I believe that every law enforcement officer out there, their weakest point is always medicine. Because we don't train a lot on the medicine side. We train on high-risk vehicle style. We train on all this other stuff. But when it comes down to providing medicine, or to individuals out there, that's probably one of the areas that we don't get a lot of specialized training in. So let's talk about that. You know, why is it important? Why has it become one of the most important training issues that every department, every officer, and skills that every officer needs to have?
Yeah, so I think where it kind of comes back from history, right? And so we kind of look back maybe 10, 15 years ago, and it was, hey, you joined the police department to be a police officer, you joined the fire department to be a firefighter, and EMS, and so on. I think what we're starting to see is a mixture of those cultures to where everybody has to know a little bit of everything for that multidiscipline capability of being able to help someone in need, right? And so from like a police officer standpoint, I think a lot of them probably joined to be a police officer, but not realizing how many medical calls or medical incidents they would actually encounter along the way. And so as they find themselves in these situations and they feel, I don't want to say useless, but maybe helpless in that environment, they start to see that maybe there's a little bit different application of skill sets that they can apply. And so we kind of look at that from the medical training side is absolutely. And so I think TCO's done a really good piece of that to where they started incorporating some of that, but they do like their 16 hours. That's the minimum for, BPOC or whatever it may be. But when we really look at it, like the medical training, if you're not practicing it and doing it on a regular basis and training it and cross-training it, it's just not effective. So it's super important.
Yeah. So I know that back when I started in 1988 and so forth, and we never had any medical training, and I think that within the past 5 years has become a top tier training issue, and that most agencies are getting there, right? I know officers been involved in shootings and they got seriously hurt and so forth. And there was no tourniquets in the department or in the officers that carried. I mean, we just started carrying, I said, about 10 years ago or so, But explain to our public here, what exactly, when people talk about medicine training, and I hear all these words, all these acronyms coming around, where does the components or the elements of medical training come from, and how do one acquires it, and specifically you on your specialty, right? But one, I know that people say, I'm a basic EMT, I'm an advanced, I'm a paramedic, I'm an EMR. I mean, what exactly are, when people talk about that, like I said, I mean, when I go around, people say, well, I'm a basic, this, so forth and so forth. You're like, all right, explain to me what's the difference, how does that work?
Absolutely, and so I think that's a great concept, right? There's a lot of ambiguity in the actual terminology of
Yes.
what this is and what that is. And so if we look at from the state of Texas perspective, and obviously this is just a state, but
Yes.
there's other perspectives
Yes.
across national
Yes.
registry as well.
Yes.
But we look at the EMR, the emergency medical responders. That's like your first responder, like a volunteer that would be arriving on scene. They have that very basic knowledge to be able to start to control the situation for one, and then just the most basic initial assessment and treatment that they can do.
Okay.
And we start looking at the EMT and the paramedic and advanced as well. Advanced is in there, so it's EMR, EMT, advanced, and paramedic.
Okay.
And so as we kind of move up that ladder, we start developing more skill sets.
Okay.
And so the EMT, if you look at it from a state's perspective, that's the most basic level that generally should ride on an ambulance. And I
Okay.
use that terminology, should, because EMRs sometimes can, but
Yes.
should ride. And so what their job is the most basic pieces. They do bleeding control, they'll help out, but they're really support, and they're support for your advanced and your paramedics. And so when you start moving up on that echelon, advanced, starting with some IV skills, some airway skills, some basic allergic reaction type skill sets. And then obviously we move to the paramedic, and that paramedic has a plethora of skill sets. You're talking about drug administration, EKG interpretation. They're getting the ultrasound now in today's world and in the environment of regular EMS and tactical.
Yes.
They're doing blood administration. They're doing a lot of very high-level skill sets that are truly life-saving in the moment when they're needed.
Yeah.
And so those are the different levels that we see.
Yeah.
And we see like other terminologies like TECC, which is the Tactical Emergency Casualty Care courses, and a lot of that's based from the military. And so one of the good things about civilian medicine versus military is that when we come from a military standpoint, we get a lot of educated individuals because we get a lot of research-based information, and we translate that into the actual civilian world, and that's how the medicine really develops.
So, I've seen a lot of officers, and they always say, I mean, some of the officers, I can tell you that we were thinking of cross-training our officers back in the 90s, and we had a lot of backlash from the law enforcement side. I don't want to be a firefighter. I don't want to be an EMS guy. I want to be a police officer, which is vice versa, right?
Yep.
But then look at where we're at right now.
Yeah.
If you have no medical training on your side, under your skill set, you're behind the curve.
Definitely.
Every police officer, because obviously that is paramount. And so from the training standpoint as to having some sort of basic training, which is the one that typically you as a subject matter expert in this area, with all the years of experience and operation experience that you had with our alert team for almost 10 years, you were a SWAT medic team leader there, but also a lot of calls that you responded to and so forth. What is the basic training that you think that every police officer out there that's watching this podcast can say, what, if I want to know some medical training besides the basic first aid, a CPR, first aid, AED kind of thing, besides, that basic stuff right there, I can tell you that there's many officers out there that don't even know how to apply a tourniquet.
Yeah.
That's as basic as that, right? But what is the basic class or training that they should get and try to acquire that in the skill set, so they can have a safe common knowledge when they come upon multiple casualties that are seriously injured, that are considered to be either a gunshot wounds or to the chest, or someone that got shot in the arm or the leg that might be have excessive bleeding and a lot of loss of blood. I mean, what is the basic one?
And so there's two ways to kind of look at this. And so if you're talking about like for a certification course in like 16 hours, something like that, something like the regular classes that we go to as peace officers. TECC course is probably a tactical emergency casualty care course is a really good course.
Okay.
It's going to teach tourniquet application, bleeding control, junctional wounds. It's going to teach the life-threatening things that can, unfortunately kill someone the quickest, right? And that's how we kind of prioritize stuff. Yeah. If I'm talking about sustainment and development in oneself, I would probably allude to like the EMT. I would skip EMR for a peace officer. Not that it's not a good thing to have, but moving into the EMT, a lot of things that we do is we do medicine, right? But sometimes at the most basic level, we don't know why we're doing the medicine.
Yes.
And so from the EMT's perspective, once you get into there, you actually have to know, you start to learn why you're doing the medicine, which is super important because that actually helps you treat the person. Yes. You're understanding what's going on with their body, their pathophysiology, those things, super important for understanding and being able to do long-term sustainment. So we have a lot of individuals that go through EMT that are peace officers. We, running the business on my side from the adult ed, we have a lot of police officers that come through our program and they love it.
What do you think they're going to? I mean, is it because they want to have more knowledge of it? I mean, I can tell that I've attended some of the training and I'm always, and I tell everybody everywhere I go, my weakest point always has been medicine, and so if that's my need improvement area, and I've been taking a lot of medical classes to understand the medicine side of things more better now because I think that it's important, I can tell that in every class that I have, I make it a point that, there's a component of medicine in that class to make sure that we are training on how to provide medicine on the road immediately, right? Life-saving kind of response, right? So, those are things that I see a lot. And, why is it that a lot of these major organizations, out there have decided that, we are going to be pushing in any training that we do, we got to have a medical component there or module there. What is that?
I can't really speak for them, but I would hope that the reason they're doing it is that they realize that the human life is more important than necessarily any tactic or whatever they could provide. And don't get me wrong, understanding the law enforcement side and being there as well and being through all that, I understand how important it is to complete the mission and all that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if someone gets shot or whatever, you want to be just as skillful as that as you are at CQB or whatever it may be. It's a cross comparison. And so, but the difference is what's the value of that person. And so I think a lot of agencies are prioritizing life, which is a super important thing in today's world. And that's what we should really be doing. Yeah. And so I think they start to see it. And it's from the officer standpoint, I think they see kind of the same thing that you're kind of feeling is that weakness, right? And so we want to be as practitioners, we want to be good at our job completely as a whole. And so a lot of law enforcement officers find themselves in these situations before EMS or fire arrives. And so they're there and they want to be able to help, but they find that weakness, that gap, that training gap that they've missed. And so I think they feel that over and over, and then they start to want to be able to make that difference. And so they get that education and that training.
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking to one of my students recently came to one of my CQB classes. You were there in the class, right? So, and he was saying that he got shot responding to an armed robbery at a CVS store in a local town, and he got shot in the leg, right? And they didn't have any tourniquets, so they had to apply a modified tourniquet with a belt. And I mean, and obviously that goes to, he mentioned the fact that he wished they had tourniquets there in that department, and eventually they did, right? But walk us through what type of injuries that have you seen, and what will be the proper medical application and the injuries. Let's talk about people get shot in the limbs and the legs, in the arms, and then walk us through more serious people that get shot on the chest. I know that we talked about some injuries before, but then also injuries that also might come upon individuals that respond to a critical incident and active shooter response, or a type of car or any type of car, which maybe people get shot, in the head or so forth. So, I mean, walk us through that.
Yeah, so when we kind of look at the prioritization of life safety, right, and we look at from an injury standpoint, from a practitioner's standpoint, we really want to address the things that are going to kill the person the fastest.
Okay.
That's really how I prioritize it, teach it, so people really understand it. It's like, okay, so I have a femoral artery. Femoral artery is a pretty thick vein, or artery, not vein, but artery, right? And so if you get a laceration or a dissection of that, meaning cut.
Which is the one that runs
it runs right down the leg,
gotcha.
right? That femoral artery.
Yeah.
So if it actually gets shot or ruptured or whatever, you're probably looking at about 3 minutes before all the blood in your body is out, before you bleed out or exsanguinate.
Yeah. And I hear that a lot. I hear that from a lot of people say that you have 3 minutes to 4 minutes. How accurate is that time?
There's research on that. There's plenty of research. That's going to be COA, casualty for TECC, right? Those are the individual agencies that kind of regulate that. Those are the military agencies, the research on that. They've done animal studies where they'll cut a femoral artery on a pig, which is very comparable to the human body.
Okay.
And so they know that bleeding out cycle, that period. So we know that our body roughly circulates our blood volume every 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And so we know that if we have this big vessel that's bleeding, we're probably going to drop that blood, at least not on the first pass. The second pass might be the third pass.
Gotcha.
So 3 minutes is an average time.
Average, yeah.
How it's to the person, right? That's one. It's to the size of the wound, right? How bad it is, how what kind of caliber weapon
the location
is being used,
of it,
location, all those things are super important. So kind of going back to that mythology, like, we're going to start with the legs.
Yeah.
Arms. So arms and legs are super easy to fix because all we have to do is put a tourniquet on. Now, proper tourniquet application is super important. Yeah. If you put a tourniquet on and you don't stop the blood and they're still bleeding, it's not effective.
So I hear a lot of people, and we train it as well, right? All the trainings that we've done is that people say, well, you got to apply a tourniquet within 20 seconds. So where does it, I know that, that's part of the what's been implemented there for a long time, but, how accurate is that time also as well? That that has, I'm pretty sure there's history. I mean, I'm sure
there's some timelines to that. What it really comes down to is making someone proficient in the skill set that they can apply in that timeline. Our goal is to keep every single drop of blood in the body for that moment. Every single drop of blood that leaves is something that carries oxygen to our body, to our muscles, to our heart, to our brain. So keeping as much blood in our system as possible is the real goal. Okay. So that 20-second is that stress inoculation that we can put on someone so that they're working in that environment, so that they understand that their goal is to put that tourniquet on as fast as possible, lock it down, and stop the bleeding, which inherently will keep the blood inside the body.
Yeah. So have you seen that there's also now different types of tourniquets? And I keep seeing now there's ones that they're like a leg holster kind of tourniquet, something that will tighten on you, and even an arm one that I've seen that also it's not Velcro, but I mean, what's your opinion on stuff like that?
So there's always going to be new technology being developed. What I would allude to from an application standpoint is that you go with what is recommended by research and proof of
from subject matter experts as well.
Right, and so we look at the CAT tourniquet.
Sure.
The CAT tourniquet is the industry recommended tourniquet. Does that mean it is the only tourniquet that's out there that will work? Absolutely not. But can I tell you that there's 10 to 20 years behind it and generational evolutions of that tourniquet and growth? Absolutely. And so I'm not saying none of those tourniquets work, because they probably absolutely do. What I would like to see on them is them start putting out some research papers, some white papers, to where you actually know, hey, like, this is the research trials that it's been through, this is the applications, these are our positive and negatives of it, and so that we can actually see the records for it, and so apply it and say, hey, this is what we're going to go to. I think for people just to go to something because it's the new technology,
or it looks
tactical, right? We always use that terminology. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's something that you really need to consider whenever you're making your kit. No one's here to tell you right or wrong. It's just how you go about in making those decision processes.
Yeah, I think that going based on research-based, response is always great, because there's a lot of research behind it. So, what about injuries to chest and stuff like that?
Yeah, so once we start moving from the legs, these are extremity trauma, and so they're the most effective ones that we can stop from bleeding.
Yes.
We start to move into our junctional areas, which are going to be like your joints, your hips, your buttocks area. Those are a little bit more complicated. They require, I'm sure, a lot of individuals in the cast of, looked at wound packing, stuff like that. And then we move to the chest. And so we address those in that order, because the chest, although traumatic, what we're really worried about is rupturing of, hollow organs and stuff like that. Yes, there's penetrating trauma that happens as well, and yes, it can cause drastic things inside of the body. But like a tension can develop it generally develops over time. So we look at that. That's like a 10-minute having not hit the heart or something like that, major vital organ. So I'm looking at 10 minutes versus 3 minutes, and so those things we address them in lethality, right? What's the timeline? I got 3 minutes here for this, and I got a sucking chest wound that's going to develop at 5-10 minutes or whatever. And so you start kind of moving down that corridor of like, let me address this in lethality. What's going to kill them the fastest?
Yeah, some officers now. But years back, we didn't used to carry any medical training supplies with us. Now it's a must for every officer, right?
Highly recommend it.
And I think that, and sometimes we're not carrying enough. I see a lot of officers only carrying one tourniquet, and.
So there's theories of that, right?
Yes,
so some of those theories are, you're carrying your IFAC individual first aid kit, right? As from the military standpoint, is for you. And if you structure it right, all of your officers have their own individual first aid kit that you treat them with. That's a theory. On the teams, we carried extra tourniquets from the TAC Med side. We would carry a whole bunch of extra tourniquets. Yes, we had our own individual IFAC, but we'd also carry a whole bunch of extra stuff. It's just how you're structuring it. Does that mean if it was an emergency, I would never use my own individual tourniquet on someone? Absolutely not. I mean, I think that's a tactical decision that has to be made in that moment. And understanding what your surroundings are and what some of those threats are out there.
I've seen it also because we also do some training on that stuff, but I've seen also officers, everything can be done properly when everything is sanitized and there's no stress and there's no pressure and there's nothing that, is forcing them to apply medicine, a medical adjunct, during a stressful situation. But I see that you do this all the time, is that, now applying many medical adjuncts during stress, during a stressful situation, that's probably the right thing to do. I mean,
it's if you are talking about comprehensive training, it's the only thing to do.
Because how do you validate what works and what doesn't work?
Correct. And how do you validate how someone's going to perform in the moment?
Yes.
Which is probably more important. I can teach a whole bunch of people, this is how you apply a tourniquet.
Yeah.
How do you apply the tourniquet under stress? Are you able to, and there's lots of videos that you can go watch on, online or whatever it may be, and you can see where, that one time a year training, how it effectively works in real life, which is not very good.
I don't believe it, training one time every 2 years or every 3 years or one, 8 hours or, I think it has to be consistent, in order for it to become muscle memory to them.
Absolutely. And so one of the things that we currently did at McAllen about a year ago is that for our rescue task force, so all of our firefighters have been trained to be able to respond to active shooter incidents and go into the warm zone and be able to start treating patients under protection of law enforcement and our police officers with support, right?
Yes.
And so not in the hot zone specifically, but in the warm zone where they have patient treatment while someone's going to contact, right?
Yeah.
And so we kind of look at that, and one of the things that we did during that training is we did the stress inoculation piece, and we really caught some people off guard in that we had real blood, or we had simulated real blood, where they were applying tourniquets, where they had wounds that were spraying blood, where they had role players that were really good at being able to have blood on them. And so we saw that bridge of, hey, like, this is a bloody patient that's reaching out for you, and then that first instant recognition of it, where they walk in and they get that tunnel vision. I was able to create that tunnel vision, that hold. And so I think those training environments are probably the most accurate environments to see how your people are going to do.
Do EMS personnel, when they're responding to this type of incident, they also get tunnel vision?
Oh, absolutely. I think everybody in their life at some point has gotten tunnel vision, or gets it on a regular basis. And the way I kind of like to educate it on my particular standpoint is like, when you start, your vision is this. When you start your career, your vision is very small, right? You can only see what your body and your mind can allow you to see. I think the longer you go on, the more experience you get, that vision gets really bigger, wider, right? And so that visual acuity starts to open up. And I think the more experience you get, the more reps you get, the more training, the more real life incidents you get, the wider that vision gets. And so hopefully by the time you got 20 years experience in the business, that vision is pretty wide to where you're getting a pretty good snapshot of everything that's going on and understanding what needs to come, and you're able to think in that environment.
Yeah. What have been some of the serious injuries that you've seen out in your career?
So, I mean, it started real early for me in my career. The one that sticks out and really why I probably associate it with law enforcement was I was involved, I was fresh on to a department up north, and we went to a double officer involved shooting. It was early morning, shift change. We made the call, we made the scene, and it was 2 officers that got shot. It was a guy that was cooking meth in a van, and he ended up getting approached by officers, and the guy fired through the windshield and shot both officers. They both returned fire. They both did their duty or whatever. When we got there were 2 officers on the ground.
Okay.
I had patient contact with both of them. We had to make some pretty critical decision-making processes on them.
They got shot in the face? Or
So one of them got shot several times, 3 times, one in the throat, clipped his head, and then got shot in the chest and in the leg. That was one of the officers, and the other officer got shot directly in the chest, just above the bulletproof vest. Made contact with both of those officers, and we had to make transport decision on who was going to go in the ambulance, and it just so happened at that time the helicopter was flying overhead, so we had to make a transport decision on who was going to the hospital.
Yeah, prioritize the most serious ones, right?
Prioritize who had the best, and in that case it was not necessarily who's the most serious, but who had the best chance of living.
Yes.
And so that's
those
that triage, and that's
those are ethical dilemmas,
it is.
Because even we train officers out there, and you guys doing more than we do, and we always we use terms such as, well, I mean, if he's green, he's good to go. If he's
yellow, red,
black, stuff like that, we start putting all those terms there, and then, does he have an arm injury, leg injury, chest wound, a junctional wound? I mean, who prioritizes? And I think that I see a lot of the officers hesitating as to, or not hesitating, let me take that back. I see a lot of officers trying to make a decision who's going to go first.
Right.
So where does that come from? I mean, obviously you want to save, because we do it as well, right? You want to save the people that you can save, and I think that sometimes officer has that ethical dilemma that, well, what if I save this one, but this one might not make it? I mean.
Yeah, and so. And so just a caveat on that story, one of those officers lived, one of them didn't. So that was a tough decision, right? And so that was a very valuable thing for me. That's kind of why I transferred into law enforcement.
Yes.
Going into the triaging, right? I think that's where getting a little bit more education helps from an officer's perspective. I'm not sure that they necessarily have, and so having gone through police academy and seeing the level of training that they get. It's a one day, like, hey, like, this is
not enough.
You got to make all your decisions based off of one day of training, which we know in reality is probably not the most practical way to make those decisions, right? And so the reality is that you're going to make decisions where someone lives and someone doesn't.
Yeah.
What I always try to teach our students is you do the most good for the most people that you can.
Okay.
And if you can keep that in the back of your mind, it's generally a lot easier to kind of make that determination. It's like, hey, this person has a wound that's fixable. If I'm spending a lot of time on one person because their wounds are so critical, and there's 4 or 5 other people, and I only work on this person, then those other people may die. So I need to make those decisions. That's what triaging is. It's reality, making an informed decision based on what they present and how they present, and then addressing that in an appropriate fashion.
Yeah.
And so there's different ideas and principles that triage them as you first come to them, or casualty collection points where you put everybody in one place and you push them out by the level of criticality or whatever it may be, but there's different ideas, and so that's just training and practice.
Yeah. So that incident was a catalyst of you entering the medical field. Wow.
I truly believe it was, and so I was a paramedic already, but it was a catalyst in me pursuing going to TAC medic school, and then once I got over here, obviously reaching out and establishing a rapport with the team and stuff like that, and kind of pushing into TAC medicine.
And I always believe that operational experience really matters.
Oh, 100%.
I can, you can know everything you want to know, but if you have no operational experience, then you wouldn't know if what you know is going to be applied properly or not, right?
100%. Operational experience it speaks volumes until you practice in real life what you're trained on, that's not applicable, right? And so meaning that if you're not doing that being involved in those events or in those operations and understanding and getting that elevated intensity of, you know, the adrenaline and all that kind of stuff and knowing how you're going to function, you really are an unknown. And so, and we've seen that in our career where we've seen people that, I want to do this. And then all of a sudden, like, maybe I don't want to do this. And so you really don't know until that environment.
True. So what's your opinion on all these law enforcement agencies now? I was talking to a few of them, trainings that I've done recently, and we're talking about medical training, right? We're talking about having we always talk about specialty individuals, right? So we say, you know what, every agency should have out on patrol a SWAT operator, a negotiator, someone that specializes in certain things, because we're seeing a lot more critical calls coming up on. But the other thing also is that every agency should have at least a medic in their agency, or someone with some sort of training beyond the basic, right, out on patrol, because they're the first ones going to be there, right? I think that the first couple of minutes, obviously the average response for law enforcement is always, about 3 minutes responding to a call. What's the average response on the ambulance side?
About 5 to 6.
5 to 6.
And so, I mean, they're required by state law to be there, under 8:59 or whatever it is, or something close to that 8 or 8:59. But yeah, about 5 to 6, getting out of the station, getting to the call. And so the piece there, that translation is the cops are already on the road. They have the ability to immediately engage and be on the road where we are at the station, and it takes us a minute to get into the truck and then be on the road. And so then we have that transport time. So inherently, officers generally will get to that call faster than us. And not every call is that critical call where that officer is going to make that life-saving save or whatever it may be, but there is a chance. And as far as your specialty teams and stuff like that, I absolutely truly believe you should have someone that has the medical specialty on your team in some form or fashion, whether that you're doing SWAT or you're doing rescue task force or you're doing narcotic search warrants, whatever it is. You need to have a specialty individual there that is dedicated to medicine and good at medicine. And so that's the other side of that, is how are they practicing? Are they just going to school and then they're your medic? Or are they required to do ride-outs every so often? Are they required to go have a working relationship with an ambulance company where they go and ride out for 8 hours every month, where they can keep their skills current and apply them and use them effectively, So those are definitely conversation pieces.
Many years ago, back in 2009, when we created the original team, I had when I first approached you, and I said, we're going to do a lot of operations here. I need someone that can take care of our guys, or someone that can take care of people if we, execute a warrant and someone gets seriously hurt. That I need somebody on scene, and that's where you come into play, and you became our medical tech medic there, and for the next 10 years after that, and then you handled all that operations. But I can tell you that we probably were one of the first agencies or teams that had a tech medic guy in our team. So now I see a lot of SWAT agencies all over the place, local and state and so forth. Now they don't roll to calls without a tactical medic. I mean,
I think that's
you've seen that
kind of what we talked about, that prioritization of life, right? That prioritization of life, which is a good thing. I mean, you're putting your team, your guys, your employees in this high risk situation. Why would you not give them the best advantage to be successful? And is there a chance that they can get shot? 100%. Do you want to have hands-on medical right then within 30 seconds? We know that the fastest that someone could get there is 5 to 6 minutes, and that's if you control the scene, and they don't have their own policies and procedures where they can't make a hot scene or whatever. And so now you're talking about delayed care. So who has the best capability of treating that person in the moment? And that's going to be someone that you deem medically competent, right? And so there's all different types of names, or they're medics or whatever you call them. But in the individual, it's that individual trained in medicine.
I mean, I've seen it. When I started doing my own stuff with the basic SWAT stuff, I saw all these medics coming to the basic SWAT. Shout out to FAR EMS out there. I mean, they send all their guys to basic SWAT and advanced SWAT, and now they're rocking and rolling with DPS and some of these federal agencies. I mean, and they go everywhere. So I mean, they're doing a great job. Same thing. Some of the guys up in the FAR also they've received the SWAT training, and now they're also medics. I mean, they get a lot of experience that, and it's always great for me to see that they are embedded within the tactical teams, because I think that any team out there that deploys to execute a high risk warrant, search warrant, and they have no medic in that particular call, they are placing their SWAT operators in danger.
Yep.
Because obviously that should be a must. That should be a must in every operational plan. Is that where's a medic? Do we have a medic or an ambulance standby? Because obviously operating without it is never good.
Right, and I think you addressed that a lot in from the team state and standpoint, is that we always had a medical plan in place.
Yeah.
We always did a 206 or whatever it may be, so that we could actually have a plan in case something happens, and have a transport decision model, have a secondary model to where if medic goes down or whatever, that we had this secondary plan in place. And absolutely right, kind of what you said. Hats off to the individual agencies that are out there that are doing it, because it's not easy, and if it's done right, it takes a lot of commitment. And so that was one of the things that we always kind of talked about on the team, is like, hey, the medics that come onto the team are going to do exactly what the guys do, meaning that they're going to do the same PT standard, they're going to do the same shooting standard, they're going to do the same training standard, which I think is important. For one, it gives buy-in of the actual team members that they're working with.
Yes.
And for two, they can fill roles to help support the team. They're not just sitting there, waiting for something to happen. They can fill in other roles, which I think is super important as well.
Yeah. I did a basic SWAT up in Alice, and we had the Duval County Sheriff's Office there, and Claiborne, Jim Wells County, Alice PD SWAT, also. And all of them are running with medics, and some of the medics were in the class, and I can tell you that, setting the tone from the get-go, and, it's always great, and having the tactics also, because obviously we can use the tactical medics for other stuff before they do medicine, right? So which is always great, because you all can be breachers, you all can be support elements, stuff like that, which I've seen it happen, because there's no medicine to do until it comes, right? But always prioritizing that side, and I think that's what I see a lot. And I always recommend people that, hey, I work for this EMS company. I want to go to a SWAT class. Yeah, I would say great, because at one point or the other, even if you're not embedded into a team, you're going to respond to a critical call where maybe there was a police officer that was shot, or a SWAT operator that was shot, or a narcotics officer, whatever the case may be. At least you know tactics.
Yeah, and it's super important. And I think you kind of mentioned a couple of things that are important to kind of bring up, which is, I think everybody wants, quote, we'll call it the black patch. They want to, it's tactical, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the team's responsibility to make sure that they fit the mold and they're vetted and that they have the capability of doing that and doing the application of medicine. Super important there. But yeah, and then one of the other pieces is that I kind of heard you mention is the different roles. And I would just walk through those roles and making sure that you still are prioritizing medicine over some of those roles.
Yes.
I know that there's a lot of people that kind of throw them around in certain areas. So you're talking about maybe a breacher.
Yeah.
Breachers, one of the first ones on the door. Is that necessarily where you want to put your medic? And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's thought process.
But if he gets shot, who's there?
Exactly.
You put a breacher as a tech medic guy, then you're going to have a secondary tech medic.
Correct. And if you have multiple
primary, secondary,
you're good.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just thought process on how you're applying your guys and your resources, and that's in every operation that we do.
Yeah, looking at all the at the tactical dilemmas that you may confront.
100%.
Right? So and I think it's important. And so I've seen it more recently than anything else. There's a multitude of agencies providing tactical medicine out there. Yours included, right? So what should agencies, because I work alongside a lot of the police chiefs, and they always ask me this, is that who do you recommend, what should we be looking for if we want some medical training for our officers, first responders on the scene? We got this agency offering this training, we got this agency offering this other specialized training. What should police chiefs, head of agencies, training coordinators, or people, even SWAT team leaders and so forth, commanders, if they want training for their personnel, what are the key things here that they should be looking for?
And so that's a great question, right? And so I will say that every training probably has something to offer, right? what I would be concerned with from maybe an administrative perspective is just being able to vet those organizations, vet those individuals teaching that class, ask for a resume. What level of training are you? What level of training are you teaching? And and so you really start to dive into the curriculum, and that's the very hard part from an administrator's perspective with little knowledge base in it, maybe, to say, oh, well, I don't understand what the difference between an EMR and a paramedic are, right? Or what are their capabilities? And so we always kind of had those conversations on our team, right? But I think that's where you find your medical specialists on your team, and they start helping you facilitate some of that information. So you find that person that you've either pushed through a medical class like EMT or paramedic or whatever it may be, and you have them help you kind of vet, like, hey, okay, this agency's over here teaching it. Okay, well, are they just educators and they never really have any operational experience? Sure. And like we've talked about educators.
I heard that term before. Yeah.
And so
that's very true.
And so operational experience is one piece, education is another. True. And you have to be able to mix those if you're teaching it. And so I think when you walk into a room, in certain agencies we call it the sniff test, right? And where you walk in, has the individual done it? Can you tell that they've done it? And are they a vetted individual that obviously can pass that information to you that you think, it's not about showboating or whatever, it's about actual application of, the information and getting that information across. So that's the kind of way I look at it. And that doesn't necessarily fit everybody, but it's a good rule of thumb. Yeah.
So I've seen also trainings that say it's 4-hour training, 2-hour training, 8 hours, 16 hours. I mean, I know the TECC, different classes, right?
Different structures.
Yeah, different structures, right? Different components and so forth. But, and obviously they all offer different things to learn, right? So, but a good class should have what?
So a good class is going to, at the end of the day, a good class is going to, the crawl, walk, run, right? So the crawl piece is going to teach you skill sets that you can actually use. The walk piece is going to make you use them, and then the run piece is going to be scenario driven in innocuous environments to where you're being stressed to where you're applying the skills. You're going to learn the most in that skill set, but you have to have a good foundation, which is that walk piece and that crawl piece. You're looking for programs that can provide that. If you're looking to try to get that in 2 hours,
not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Medical skills are perishable. You don't use them, you lose them, just like shooting. If you're not using those skills and not training those skills on a regular basis, you're going to lose them. So if you're talking about you are pulling a guy off the line and you want them to go and become a TAC medic, at least send them to EMT school, and then you send them to a full functioning TAC medic school. That's somewhere going to be in the round of 50 to 60 hours. The problem is that's a lot of hours for agencies, and I understand that. But
sometimes they don't.
What's it worth? You know what I mean? And so value what it's worth. What is that individual bringing back? What are you putting on your team that you have now, and you have that medical asset? That's one of the reasons why when we were doing our hits and stuff like that, operations, is that I felt bad when I couldn't make it because I just didn't want any, like, it's not that I could control anything. I wanted to be there if something happened. I wanted to be able to help when something happened.
But the good thing here is that you developed some other tech medics that will show up.
100%, and that's what you do. You start
guys
building your
that
core.
Actually work in hospitals and stuff like that. Guys that have done a lot of medicine on 100%. Their side, and we had a great a group of tech medics there that in the team. What would be some of the things that the don'ts that you come across, and when we see some of this medical training going on, because obviously some of these training say, hey, in 2 hours I want all these guys trained. I want 4 hours. I want all these guys. Hold on, it's difficult to train medicine, right? So the subject matter expertise needs to be there.
And that's what I would say, right? So we kind of look at police officers, firefighters or firefighters, and EMS is EMS. Those very rarely all come together with the amount of knowledge and experience that you can find. If I want to learn from someone for tactics, I want to go to the guy that knows tactics, that has been doing tactics. If I want to learn from someone on medical, I want to go to the guy that knows medical, right? And so sometimes those cross. Very rarely do they cross, but sometimes they cross. And so when you look at that, I would be going towards the person that has the medical knowledge and has the operational experience to be able to provide that training. And that's the most important thing, and current and recent training, right? So you want them to be up to date on their training level as well. And so have they continue to go to continuing education, or they continue to develop their individual knowledge base and stuff like that.
Yeah. Recently I've seen a lot of agencies, even local areas here, that we get in armored vehicles, right, to do our operations. And now Homeland Security, just received, many, armored vehicles for their operations as well. All the federal agencies, right. But one of the things that, and obviously our tech medics are embedded there, but one of the things that I would like to see is the fact that, our tech medics are a very key component for anything and everything that we do, right? But sometimes they don't roll into an operation, if they're not embedded, they don't roll into operation with armored protection, right? So I know that now you and me have been talking about this, that I think that we are there already, that some of the tactical medics that respond or assist in law enforcement, they should also have some armored protection there. And I think that there's Elenco puts out a brand new, was putting out a new armored vehicle. It's called a Firecat. So I mean, I think that you think that we're there already?
I absolutely think we're there. Okay. And so it kind of goes down to specialties, right? So you look at the Firecat, and they also make an armored ambulance now too. So Lincoln's making great products. But if you look at the Firecat specifically, we talk about fire as a weapon as one of the newest.
And we've done some training on fire as a weapon.
And we've done some training on that. And so you look at that, like, what are your risk variables? How are you going to mitigate those? And so when we start adding fire to any dynamic of tactical, it becomes very complicated very quickly.
Yes.
And you have to have those specialty individuals. And so that's where, you're going to lean on your fire guys. Like, hey, what is a dangerous environment? How do I mitigate this, or whatever it may be? So cross training. Having those pieces and parts, those applications that you can say, hey, call up whoever has it, right? Have them come over here and provide this, because environments now are unpredictable. We're getting into all these different environments, fire as a weapon, all these other environments, hostage barricade. Those have been going on for a while. But how are you drones? How are we mitigating those tactical dilemmas, as you always said? And that's a super important thing that you need to be thinking to that next level, because it's only a matter of time before you should have, and like you said, you should always have a primary, secondary, third, fourth plan, fifth plan in place, so that you can actually make that mission successful.
What's great to see that what you guys are doing there in McAllen Fire. I mean, obviously all your arson guys are SWAT certified, and you all continue to build that team. And you're the only agency down here on the fire side that has a full-blown, arson team that's trained basic SWAT and so forth, and advanced SWAT, right? So, and I think that, that is the approach you take. And, you think that other fire departments should do the same thing? I mean, I think that I can tell you the other weakest part of law enforcement is that we don't know how to handle fires.
Correct.
So when we talk about fire as a weapon, we've seen a lot of the hostage barricade incidents on domestic violence now. They're becoming the perpetrators are using fire against law enforcement. The uniforms that we wear are polyester, so they're no good in the fire, right? So, and I think that, and I know already a couple of incidents which officers being in critical incidents where the fire was used as a weapon against them, so I think that you are taking the right approach, and I think that I would like to see more of that.
Yeah, we're fortunate at McAllen Fire to be able to have the support from our administrators on the ability for our team to grow. It kind of started with the idea and concept of the Rescue Task Force platform, right? And so being able to provide that safety and security blanket for our guys. If we were going to send our guys in and we weren't going to stand by and we were going to do the warm zone and be able to start doing patient treatment, which is what all of the papers and all the white papers and all that say, is like, hey, we can no longer stand outside and wait, right? And so we've taken that concept on, and that's one of our principles, is that, hey, we're going to go and help people. And so our goal is to be able to provide that security. Obviously working with other law enforcement agencies to help build and bolster that group, but at the end of the day, we can do it. And so, and training with our guys so that they feel comfortable training with police officers and having that and entering and understanding how safe it is. That's kind of where it started. And then we realized that we really needed to make sure that our guys were capable and having had some background in, the SWAT and stuff like that, I thought it was important that our guys were, qualified. And so having gone to basic SWAT and sending them to advanced SWAT, I thought those were super important things.
Yes.
Being able to have the pieces of equipment that we have to be able to support that mission. Reality is our guys are, small 8-9 man team that work together, train together on a regular basis that have some skill sets. And so we love it.
And I've seen you guys train. I've seen you guys, practice and implement that. I think it's great, and I think that's the way it's supposed to be, because obviously, just think about it, Lieutenant, is that, police and fire, we're doing the same thing. You guys are learning tactics so it can be embedded with us when we go to critical calls. And then the other side of it, law enforcement is learning medicine.
Yeah.
So we can go and assist you guys also while we're on scene. So, I mean, we are there already. What's important now is that the partnership and the skill sets that we need to know a little bit of that.
Everybody needs a little bit of everything.
Yeah, either or, right? So we don't want to be subject matter experts in multiple fields, right? But I mean, we want to know, hey, I want to know a little bit of that. I don't want to be just standing around.
I agree.
I don't want officers or SWAT operators just be standing around. I mean, I think everybody needs to know, hey, man, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do that? Yeah, I mean, I think that we're there. And also on the other side of that, when we respond to a hostage barricade critical incident, I think that what you guys doing there in Mechanic Fire is that now the fire department can be embedded with us. Hey, can you grab the shield? Can we put the hose on the shield? Can we attack this fire this way? And I think that I can tell you that the last advanced SWAT we had, it was awesome to see that your guys were 100% vested into it.
I agree.
It was great. It was great. Yeah.
And that comes with that working relationship, right?
Yeah.
And training together, cross training. We want to be able to provide a capability that not necessarily would normally be there, right?
Yeah.
And so you look at, we go back to fire as a weapon as that thought process. We're firefighters.
Yeah.
Most of us have been firefighters first in our career.
Yes.
Before we became police officers, which gives us a different perspective. A lot of the guys on the team are. Almost all the guys are lieutenants and have tons of knowledge of experience.
Even though there's always beef, police and fire. I mean,
that's camaraderie. That's not beef. That's camaraderie.
It's always been like,
So that's the expectation, right? And so, like, I would hate for it to be any different.
Yeah,
quite honestly.
true. Yeah,
but when it comes to working and comes to doing a mission, there's no doubt that it's one team working together, and that's really important.
I agree. I mean, I think it's great, and I think that's what we're seeing now.
100%.
Lieutenant, I want to thank you for coming up to this podcast, man. I think it's great.
I appreciate it.
I think that our viewers here have a little bit of understanding on the medicine side, medical training side, and I think that it's always great. We don't have enough medical training that as we should, but I think that hopefully it opened the eyes of many people out there that are watching this podcast and venture out. I challenge everybody out there that's police or fire. If you're police officers venturing into getting some medical training,
I agree.
And you're on the fire side or EMS side, venturing into getting some tactics training.
Yep.
And I think that we're there already. I think that we both need each other. We both disciplines need support from each other, and I think that that's probably the way that we should look at the future now in law enforcement and police and fire, is that it needs to be together, and I think that will make a difference. Obviously, the whole intent is to priority our life, right? Save as many lives as you can. So appreciate you being here.
Absolutely,
thank you. So, Lou, a few last words for our viewers out there, Lieutenant.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you on everything that we've said, right? Working together, making sure that, we accomplish that end mission, which is protection of life, right? Yeah. As far as the other side of that, anybody out there reaches out, you can contact us at Elite Medical Training Solutions. Okay. Our website is emt-school.com. Be happy just to have a conversation with you.
Sure.
I'm not looking necessarily for you to sign up, but if you have some questions or whatever it may be medicine-wise, feel free to reach out.
Appreciate it, Lieutenant.
Sir, appreciate it very much, Chief.
Hey, thanks for everybody for watching. So I'll see you on the next podcast.